Welcome to Raiders the Lost Art episode 19. My name is Finbar and this is Creating the New Sound. Are you an artist that is always playing the same thing? Do you sound like every other band? Are you trying to find a new voice? Are you trying to find some new direction, but do you struggle in figuring out how to do it? Well, this is the episode for you. In this episode, basically, I provide a playback of the training I provided on the most recent Hacking Music X program out of Nashville, provided by Jetpack Artist Ventures and my good buddy, John Pisciotta. So in this training, I talk about a number of things. I talk about the power of different by design. I talk about different thinking techniques through the lens of music, so it's not too complicated. And then right at the end, I provide some tools, techniques, and tips you can use straight away in trying to push yourself into a zone where you can create a new sound. So I hope it adds value. I've had great feedback from around the world so far on this lesson. So let's get into it and let's get started.
So welcome, everybody. I'd like you to meet Finbar O'Hanlon.
Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Streaming in from Australia. We've had to do a little bit of time zone jujitsu to make this all work. So Finn and I recorded this a day prior to make this all work out.
Back to the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Finbar, thanks for coordinating and scheduling.
It's great to be here, John, as always.
So when we originally started thinking about Hacking Music X, we had a list of people who were like, man, it would be great if we could get to really open up the Komodo and share how they work in an honest, transparent way, almost like training the 18-year-old version of you. Like, what would you share with them if you were training yourself? And honestly, Finbar, you were at the top of that list because I think you maybe naturally are a little more different and original than others, but yet you still understand how it applies to mere mortals. So I want to thank you for being here.
Thanks, man. That's an honor.
Yeah, definitely, man. So one of the things you talk about a lot as you train and work with artists and corporate entities is the power of different. You've said in a couple different scenarios that different is the greatest hack in life.
Yeah.
Can you set us up? What does that mean?
Okay. So let me give you an analogy to make it simple, and then we can go and delve into it deeper. But just on the surface. So I'm doing a workshop. I'm doing a workshop at a big organization, leadership team, board of a major Fortune 500 company. Yeah. And all the guys in the business and girls are working really, really hard, long hours to try and stand out. Okay, so they're trying to make, okay, if I stay back a bit longer, I might be recognized, I might get a promotion, I'll do this, if I turn up to every meeting that I hate, blah, blah, blah. And so in one of my trainings, I said, so you're working really, really hard to be noticed and to be different and make your work shine out. And they go, yeah. And then I said, how come you all look the same? And they went, what do you mean? I said, so if you turn up tomorrow in jeans, a blazer, because these guys are all in suits,
right,
and your hair all messed up, you did the same work, what would happen? Oh, that wouldn't work. Then I'd get criticized. I'd get called in. You go, yeah. And then you could explain that your work speaks for itself. Then you get recognized and you're different. Now, I'm not saying that that's right or not, but as a very simple analogy, people seem to be like salmon going up the stream. They're all working really, really hard to get up the stream. And yet just on the side is a little tiny river that accelerates you and gets to the front of the crowd. And I often ask them, have you seen other people get ahead? And you go, how did that happen? And they go, oh, yeah. And I go, and yet you're working really, really hard to get to that ahead, but you're doing exactly the same as everyone else. It's called a blue ocean strategy. You're in what's called a heavily contested market space. Right. And you're all fighting for the same little part of that stream. You're working extremely hard because everyone else is working really hard. So you're working extra hard. Yet just over there is the shortcut. And you don't take it because, that's not what everyone else does.
Right.
And so that's a very simple analogy for me to try and explain how massive the hack of being able to understand the power of different and then apply the power of different to your life. I mean, does that sort of make sense, or is that sort of
is that
because I can go into much more detail?
No, that's fine. That's perfect. Is that a lack of diversity? That
well, it's yes, it is, but diversity is such a buzzword, right? People go diversity, you know, oh my God, you know, like you know, we inclusion and diversity.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything, right? Like, well, they mean different things to different people. And when a word means different things to different people, you've got a completely blurred baseline, which actually has little value.
Yeah,
so
and I mean true diversity in the diversity of thought, diversity of opinion.
Yeah, but also, John, like we're all, myself, as much as that I'm, you know, I teach thinking systems, I use thinking systems. It's helped me get ahead. It's helped me build myself an incredible life.
Sure.
All of us are programmed. All of us had that tribal thinking mindset because we all at one point went to a school. We all at one point mixed with a group of friends who are a tribe, who think a certain way. We all, you know, like and gravitate towards a sport, so we have in us this tribal sort of essence whereby in a lot of ways we're influenced by lots of things. And a lot of that is the peer pressure, what other people tell us, what some of our mentors and educators tell us. Yet none of our mentors and educators and peer groups have really come to us, well, in a lot of cases, and said, you know what? You need to cultivate your uniqueness. And I need to actually work out a way to help you find out who you are. Mm-hmm. It's all about, this is how we go. You follow us. This is how you should paint your car. You should buy this car. You should wear these sneakers. And you fall into that tribe. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at very little stages in your evolution as an artist, as a businessman, whatever you are you ever thinking, how can I surround myself with people who will amplify and help me understand my uniqueness, and then how to apply that in life? Now,
not beat it out of you.
Not beat it out of you. Absolutely. You get criticized. And so what ends up happening is, you know, you're on Instagram, you've got to look a certain way. You've got to do this because then you fall into the tribe. That is the salmon swimming up against the stream with everyone else. Yeah. And so the hack of being able to understand the power of different, not being different by design, is being able to understand all of those things, but also understand that just by being different and knowing how to surgically make that different valuable is the greatest explosion or the greatest hack of all time, because all of a sudden now you stand in uncontested market space.
Right. It's you against you at that point.
Yeah, well, it's also then everyone wants to start copying you. So it's sort of like, I'll give you sort of another analogy, which this is the hero's journey of someone who's different.
Right.
You start off, you want to be different. The very first instances that you know that you're actually different is when everyone starts criticizing you, right? Now, most people would go, oh, that's bad. But you've got to recognize that sign as, okay, I'm at step one. I'm on the summit of Everest. I'm at base camp 1. People are criticizing me. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Our programmed mind seems to think, oh, that's bad. That's bad. The very first thing that happens in society is people start criticizing you. Mm-hmm. That's when your resilience has got to kick in. That's when you're at base camp 1, you're freezing cold, but you've got to push on. As long as it's difference by design, not just being weird for the sake of it, right? And so you get this pressure, but what that pressure makes diamonds by being able to stay strong as long as it's inherent to you. It's not being different because, I'm going to wear pink hair because that's different. It's about really understanding who you are and being true to that, because that's what's going to help get you through. It's like that marathon, you know, you've got to know that this is your deep passion. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you push through. Then what happens is after people start criticizing you, all your friends start leaving you because your tribe you don't belong to that tribe anymore. Mm-hmm. Again, people would go, oh my God, I've got to now go back to my friends are leaving me. Again, you got to see that as a sign of strength, not as weakness, that you are now actioning your unique difference.
Right.
Then what happens is people start questioning, how does that person do that? How can they possibly do that? You get these questions. Then people start asking you, and then they say these comments like, I would love to be like you, but I can't. You know, I remember going to the Grammys and the Emmys, and I'm on the red carpet and I'm wearing this crazy designer outfit that a guy in London made me with. I had to wear a black tie, so I wore a black tie around my wrist. I still wore a black tie, so they couldn't kick me out, right? I had a suit jacket with like Johnny Rotten big pins in it, because that's just what I liked. It was a punk statement.
Right.
But I couldn't get kicked out because I used lateral thinking. But look, regardless of that, then what happened was people would start saying to me, well, you can get away with it because it's you.
Right.
Which is really their way of saying, well, I'm a programmed salmon swimming up the stream in one way. And I would love to be like you, but I just don't have the guts to be like you.
Right.
Then what happens is everyone starts to want to be like you. That's when this is the summit. And it's a hard journey because you know why it's hard? Because we haven't been taught. That's all. It's not actually hard. It's just that we've counterbalanced our lives around, I hope someone likes me. Right. You know, I've worked with artists where they cry if someone criticizes their song. And I'm like, well, do you like it? And they go, yeah. And I go, okay, well then that's an important artifact that someone didn't like it. And you need to work out, is that important to you or not? Like that could be one of the greatest signs that you're doing something right. Do you think Bjork? Do you think U2 when they started? Do you think when a lot of these bands, a lot of the greatest bands in history, if you mention their name, Van Halen, U2, Bjork, Coldplay, you put on one song of theirs and you know it's them.
Right.
Then you see a bunch of other bands trying to sound like them. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's about having the resilience, but having your own identity. But it takes guts and determination, but more so than anything else, it takes training. And a lot of people haven't been trained for that because that's not how society works.
It's like we've been trained for conformity rather 100%. Than originality. And I wonder, do you think that's more pronounced now in the digital post-corona world where everybody's kind of maybe a little more isolated and separated?
Yeah, well, look, I think there's a fundamental shift going on, which, to be totally honest with you, I talk to people and they go, the 60s was where it was at, man. Mm-hmm. Then I hear other people going, the 70s is where it's at, man. Then other people go, 80s music, 80s metal is where it's at, man. And people can't see when they're in the middle of a fundamental change. Right. And I believe we're in one of the biggest fundamental changes in history. Right? Yeah. We're going through this fourth industrial revolution where artificial intelligence, machine learning is not, it takes away our jobs if we want to have a fear mindset, but it underpins a whole new level of power and creativity. As an artist, you can build a YouTube channel. I've just hit 40,000 views on 15 episodes of my radio show, and it's a really weird niche piece of content. It's not for everyone. Right. But the power of knowing SEO and being able to do it yourself and work on your tags and knowing what's trend. This is really stuff that you would have had to have a whole team working on in the past.
It is the greatest time in history. I mean,
it is the greatest time.
There are no more gatekeepers, and the tools just off the shelf are incredibly powerful. Just 10 years ago, having to pay for some of the SaaS tools would have been cost prohibitive. So, Finn, let me ask you this. You talk about something you've said before, is there's a difference between different and being different.
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean, but can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So there's one thing going, I'm just different because I'm weird, and it's a statement that I don't fit in, and that's fine. And you can do that, but by not fitting in and being totally focused on this is my brand and this is my identity, and I don't care what anyone else thinks, what you'll end up is a very lonely solo person that's broken. You know why?
Yeah. Because
you've never thought about how you're different creates value for someone else. Okay. I say to people, like when I mentor a lot of people, I say to them, they often ask me, Finn, how do I get that Ferrari? You've had all these great cars and houses and you lived all over the world. How did you get that stuff? And I go, well, there's only one thing you have to do, but you won't believe me if I tell you. And they go, well, yeah, no, I'll believe you. And I go, no, the thing is you won't believe me. And so I'm not going to tell you, but I'm saying that on purpose because they want me to tell me. And then I go, and I get to the point where they're like, please tell me. And I go, okay, I will tell you, but I'm going to tell you because of your mind programming, you're not going to believe me because you've been brought up on a system, and this hack that I'm about to tell you is it's going to get you your house, your car, whatever you want in life. If it's all about you, this is what you have to do. And they go, okay, tell me. I go, okay. You have to make sure, this is it, the only thing in life you need to do. You have to make sure that every single person you meet, they leave with more than you take.
Mm.
That's it. And they look at me and go, well, what does that mean? I go, when you focus on meeting someone and you exchange more value, you're focusing on providing value, not taking. What happens? People want to be around you more. They want to do more deals with you. They want to hang out with you. Why? Because they're getting more value. Whether they are or not, you're focusing on them.
Yeah.
And as artists, it is a very, very, very powerful lesson, because when you're different and you're just like, oh, yeah, well, I got pink hair and I don't care what anyone else thinks, that's fine. But gone are the days whereby when you've got back in the 70s, there wasn't 40,000 songs being added to Spotify every single day. The competition was different. So someone might be different on Carnaby Street in London and be recognized and be able to build a brand just because they're weird. Today, it's a much more complex scenario. So, being able as an artist to cultivate your own sound, your own voice, your own art, but also have that, be able to think about value exchange is the difference. So being different and different, I call it different by design. Being able to understand your difference, but then to also understand how that different creates value for others around you is the true recipe for success, in my view.
Yeah, that's great, man. So I've heard you mention a couple of different times thinking systems, and so I think you said there were 5 thinking systems. Can you kind of step us through those and unpack what you're talking about with these thinking systems?
So just like anything in life, like playing a guitar, you could pick up a guitar and just go like that and make a sound. And when I say thinking systems, people go, oh yeah, well, I think all the time. You go, yeah, you do. But a thinking system is a process, a framework in which you use, just like the Hacking Music Exchange program, there is a process and a framework. And by sticking to that framework helps you uncover, identify, optimize, and hack your way to get to the outcome faster. Right? Okay. That's the whole point. Otherwise, don't use a system, go through life, spend 20 years, and hopefully you might get a result. These frameworks have been designed to help you quickly from centuries of different philosophers and learners and educators to be able to go, that's the roadmap. So if I said to you, John, you're in Nashville, I want you to get to this street in Minnesota and you have no map, go for it. Do you think you would arrive there as fast as if you had a GPS with live traffic data in your car? No way. So these thinking systems are a roadmap, right? Okay. That help you get there faster. So I just wanted to cover that off first. It's not just some airy fairy stuff. Behind what I'm talking, there are actual real frameworks behind these. So the first one is tribal thinking.
Okay.
Tribal thinking is exactly what I described earlier. It's how we've been brought up. We've gone to school, and school isn't about finding out who we are. It's about making us mold into this thing so we can get a job to be an active member of society. Right. And I'm sure a lot of the people checking out this program understand only too well that you're of an archetype that system doesn't work for.
Yeah, it's built for another.
Okay. Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that for a lot of people too. Don't get me wrong. If you didn't have people that thought like that, you wouldn't have people to manage your accounts or to do there's a whole bunch of stuff that add value. Anyway, so tribal thinking is, I go for this football team, or I'm for this political party. And that political party is a great one. When I lived in America, I go, great. So explain what this party means. And they go, and a lot of people would go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, what does it stand for? What is its core ethics? What's its ethos? Name its top 10 sort of reasoning about why it exists against the other party. And they go, oh, well, I don't know. I just go for this because my parents went for it. That's tribal.
Yeah.
It's a team. I go for a football team. That's fine. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that. But that's tribal thinking. It's I am going to go for this. No matter what you say, I will sit here and argue with you about what I believe in. And I go, great. How did you come to believe in that? Because before you believed in it, you didn't believe in it.
Right.
And then they go, what do you mean? I go, well, when did you start believing in that? Or what time did your tribal thinking kick in? Because before you actually were programmed to think a certain way. And it's an interesting question, because once you are in that mindset, no matter what someone teaches you, you'll find reasons to self-sabotage yourself and to say why that doesn't work. And that's,
so these 5 thinking systems are not all beneficial, because what you just explained, the tribal thinking it's kind of low resolution thinking.
super low resolution. What you actually end up doing is bypassing opportunities because you don't believe anything else except for what you believe is right. So the earth is flat. People that believe the earth is flat, you could argue all day long. It's not even any point arguing because no matter what you say, they're going to believe the earth is flat. So you're just going to end up wasting your time talking to them. And they might be right. They might be wrong, whatever. But the point is what they think is set in stone. And so for those people, there is no point doing a hacking music program. There's no point learning any professional development.
They're closed. They know everything. They're done.
Exactly. And the thing about that is it's the most common type of thinking. What I'm trying to say is that is the norm. That is not me teaching a thing. That's what most people do. And it's unfortunately because they've been brought up in a society where that's what the society teaches you.
Yeah.
But if you want to get ahead, that is not a helpful type of thinking.
Gotcha.
But just to recognize what I'm talking about, you are the salmon. You're the 10,000 salmon in tribal thinking swimming up against the stream.
Right.
Again, nothing wrong with that if you're happy with it. But if you want to get ahead, you need to understand that you can't think like that.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay.
So that's tribal thinking.
Okay.
Low resolution thinking, the most common thinking system, binary thinking, you're in or you're out kind of thing.
Yeah. On or off. Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay. So then we have a bunch of stuff. We have dialectic, critical, lateral, design thinking. These are the powerful thinking techniques. Okay. So let me put it through.
I'm going to take some notes here while we're talking.
Okay, sure. So what I'm going to do again, I'll give it an analogy because it can all sound fluffy and sort of super, consultancy. I'll put it in a Gibson versus Fender mindset, just so, and then I'll explain the thinking systems versus Gibson versus Fender, just so you can understand sort of at a high level what that means.
Perfect.
Gibson versus Fender, tribal thinking. I like Gibson. I like Fender. The Gibson guy, Fender guy says, yeah, this Telecaster is amazing. Gibson guy goes, I like Gibson. I hate Fender. That's tribal thinking. Okay. Critical thinking is taking in, before you make a decision, before you say I like one or the other, when you say, do you like Gibson or Fender? In a critical thinking mindset, it's okay, what do I need? Do I need a tremolo? Do I need humbucking pickups? Do I need single coils? What sort of music do I play? How heavy is it? What's the weight balance? How many frets has it got? That's critical thinking. You're thinking about all different pieces of the puzzle, and then you put that together before you make your decision. Does that sort of make sense? That's critical thinking. Understanding a lot of different, it's sort of, I call it often the murder ball hack, where you, like when you're solving a murder, you've got different pieces of evidence and that leads you to a conclusion. Yeah, that's critical thinking. Dialectic thinking is simply, before you make a decision, you evaluate both sides of the argument. So I like Gibson because they sound better in rock. The Fender guy says, I hate Gibson because they're too heavy and they just sound too fat. Okay, so you would go, before you make a decision, well, does it sound fat? What's the amp? You're really evaluating someone else's viewpoint on the complete opposite side. So it's two different things. And then you use both of those things to come together to come up with an outcome. Okay. But you're really listening, intently listening to what someone else's criticism.
Gotcha.
Okay,
so
which is critical. Because a lot of people, when they hear
the other side,
you evaluate, and 50% of your evaluation is based on what other people are saying. And this is what is a major problem in the world right now. Someone says something someone doesn't like, and they will sit there and argue why they're wrong, rather than sitting there and going, hang on a second. I'm going to spend 50% of my evaluation on what they're saying and really research that before I make a decision. That is dialectic thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's one or it's binary. It's that I'm going to have the positive and the negative. Whereas critical is all different pieces coming together, little bits and pieces.
Gotcha.
Okay. Design thinking, Gibson versus Fender. Design thinking is, I don't care what I play. All I care about is what the audience wants me to play. That's design thinking. It's about thinking about your audience, about the value that someone who uses your product, who listens to your music, who understands your brand. It's got actually nothing to do with you. It's actually got to do with how do you build the best product for your audience. That's design thinking.
So it's the customer first, the Jeff Bezos.
Customer first. And everything works back from that customer. So you map in the framework, you map a customer journey. How does someone listen to my music? What headphones do they use? Where do they listen? How long do they? All of these are really important factors in design thinking. Then what have we got left?
Lateral.
Lateral. So this is, it sounds like Adderall, but it's lateral in American. But lateral thinking to me is the penultimate. But I use all of them together. So lateral thinking in a Gibson versus Fender scenario is where you look at something from a completely different lens. So someone would say, "What do you think about Gibson versus Fender?" Most people would think about the guitar. Gibson versus Fender. In lateral thinking, you would be thinking, well, how do I upgrade the player of the guitar so they don't even have to think about whether they like one or the other? They actually know how to get the best out of both. So you're shifting your mindset into not thinking about the things that are obvious before you. It's about thinking about something else. I did a big workshop for one of the major law firms in Australia, and they were talking about how do they innovate their law firm because everything's going into blah, blah, blah. So I basically said to them, tell me what law is. And they went, well, it's a set of rules that allow you to evaluate that are set by, a governing body. And then we need to make sure that the company or whoever we work with adheres to those laws. I go, okay, cool. So I said, don't tell me what you do, tell me the value you create. And this is one of my most important questions I hit with startups, artists, everything. Don't tell me what you do, tell me the value you create. It's a very hard question in a lot of cases, especially for companies. Yeah. And so they said, well, we provide law services. I go, well, no, because you just explained what that is. You're telling me what you do. Tell me the value you create. Law services isn't about, anyway, long story short,
yeah, well,
I got them to believe they were an insurance company, right? Because what they're doing is ensuring a business doesn't get sued.
Yeah,
ensuring a business is compliant. So once they saw through that insurance lens, then I said, because they were losing all these customers, I said, why don't you charge as an insurance company? And they were like, what? So you pay a monthly fee, you get all of these stuff for free. They did that, huge success. But that was lateral thinking, looking through a completely different lens. So in the Gibson versus Fender scenario, it is not about the guitar, it's about the player. And how do I not have to worry about whether one versus the other, because they're both guitars. How do I get the best out of both? That's lateral thinking.
Right. I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So just to repeat these back to you, tribal thinking is basically binary thinking. It's the most common in people, and you've
been programmed to
think low resolution thing, public school type thing. And then we've got critical thinking, which is specifically detailed and personalized.
Little pieces of data come together like a jigsaw puzzle to make up a picture. Right.
Okay. And then dialectic is evaluating the other position, listening first.
Polar opposite.
If I hear you right, you're listening first, and then you're taking their input first, and then offering input back based on their.
No, so sort of. So dialectic thinking is you on a piece of paper, you cut it down to half, and you write down the bullet points of what you think about something. Then on the other half of the paper, you find someone who totally opposes what you believe, and you listen to them, and then you make bullet points of exactly why they don't believe you. Then you have two pieces of evidence. Then you start to look at them, and you start to challenge yourself of, well, what would happen if they were right? Is a question you're going to ask yourself.
So you take their position as if it's true, even if you disagree with it.
Correct. And then, but then you look for what's the intersection between the two, because often someone else's viewpoint of what's right might not be 100% right, but it might be 50% right. Yours might be 50% right. But by putting them together, you might see something you never saw before.
Right. It's the idea that you can always learn something from somebody else.
100%. And look, let me just say this is, these are super challenging. They sound simple on paper, but
no, this is not.
When your emotion starts to rise, bang, that's a sign you've been programmed, because there's no reason for your emotion to rise. Because if your emotions rising, it's because you believe something and someone's challenging that.
Yeah.
Right? So
Okay.
there's a reason why the Dalai Lama, you could say, like, I love nuclear war. And he just goes, it's great. Because that to him is an artifact that he might be able to sort of synthesize. And look, that takes training because, we all get so emotional. When you watch, I can't watch any of these shows with people arguing because for me, there's no point arguing. There's just two different viewpoints. But people will sit there and argue as if someone's going to go, oh, you know what? You're 100% right. I now totally believe you.
Right.
But these are great skills to understand how to be different and be successful in it.
I love it. And then fourth was design thinking. This is taking the audience first, the customer first perspective, and then working backwards from the end customer.
Yeah.
And lateral thinking, the fifth one, is being neutral in your position, but upgrading how you think or operate, like the law firm was.
So it's really about, and this is probably the hardest one a lot. It's about, I call it a parallel universe strategy. And this is sort of goes into some of the tools that I use. So a parallel universe strategy is to, if you're in music, what you need to do is to sort of map out what you do. I write songs, I publish them on there. I hope people listen, and trying to find something in a different universe, science, nature, technology, whatever, and try and map that. And do you mind if I give you a scenario?
Please.
Okay. So without getting super technical, I invented this technology called Linnaeus, which is basically the ability on the fly to go inside a digital video file and pull out the little bits and pieces, which are the keyframes, and reassemble it. So end result is that anyone can get a piece of video that's made up and produced for an individual on the fly in seconds without any rendering or any edit suites. So when I tried to think about what do I call that company, I thought about the process. So the technology goes inside a video file. It identifies the DNA of the video file. Then it gets a request of what it wants. It pulls out the bits of the DNA and reorders it, brings it back, and then delivers a different product to the end user from the original file. So I thought, what in nature does that? And you know what I came up with? A bumblebee. Because a bumblebee flies out of its hive onto a flower. It extracts pollen out of the flower. It then flies back to the hive and turns it into honey. So it's transforming. And so an artist could do that. They could say, look, I'm like a bumblebee because I go out and I pull up, I like this bit of this artist and this bit of this artist. And then I play this and I plug it through this amp with these effects and I'm changing this. And the end result is a synthesis or a symphony of something different. So what I did was then I was looking for a name of the company. So I went and looked up the Latin name for a bumblebee. And the Latin name for a bumblebee is Apis lineus. Okay, so then I looked up where did the name Apis lineus come from? And it came from a guy called Albertus Linnaeus, who was the godfather of metadata in the late 1800s. So he classified plants, animals, and trees. So when I would go around and talk about this name of my company, it came from the godfather of metadata, Albertus Linnaeus. People would look it up and go, oh my God, that's amazing. But you know what I just did in doing that? I created a story. And I created a story around my being and why our difference had come from somewhere. And that story transfixed people into believing the journey. Whereas if I said, I do this, people go, that's impossible. You can't do that. But when I said, and then I would go into a story, like a childlike story, over time, there's been these inventions that came from nowhere and people said it was impossible. So it was that art of storytelling. But that's lateral thinking, not looking at the problem through the lens of a musician. Look at the lens of the problem through a scientist. And that takes practice.
Yeah. No, I love it. So these 5 thinking systems.
Sorry if I'm sounding crazy here, but
no. This is great. This is great. I love it. Let's wrestle this down to earth for that 20-year-old kid who's maybe wired creatively, or that 22-year-old female artist. How can others apply this to their life and music? Because I think you, Finn, and I think we've worked together. We understand each other. I think you have a couple extra creative DNA. Like, no. You're naturally, I think you're naturally more wired in this. So for somebody who's maybe a little less of an original, how can they apply this in their day-to-day?
Very simple. As an artist, here's what you do. Write a song. record it. Go and listen to a piece of music that you don't like. Opera, country, jazz, whatever. Listen to it, actively listen to it.
Okay.
Try and figure out what's going on. If you're a guitarist, get the tab, work it out. Even if you don't like it, it's important that you don't like it, okay? This is dialectic thinking, right? You're getting something you don't like, but you learn it.
Right.
Go and learn a Burt Bacharach piece, whatever it is. Learn the changes, whatever. You might never, ever think you will use it.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that, then go and take your song and try and write the song through the lens of that country artist.
Okay.
Right?
Another song.
What you do, try and take the song you've recorded for your own style and then try and write it as if it was, try and copy the song through your song of the song that you don't like.
Okay.
Right? Now, people will go, that is insane because I don't like that. But the reason you do that is to see if you can discover a unique sound, a brand, an identity. And so what you're doing is just
it's a forced limitation of saying, okay, Burt Bacharach, you're going to rewrite that song in the
style
as if Burt Bacharach wrote that song.
100%.
Okay.
And this is a very, very complex challenge because it's going to go against every single thing that you like or don't, that you don't like. Right. So it's going to challenge you more. So it's like when you see these Marines training and they're really struggling, this is going to struggle you mentally, but what it's going to do is it's going to make you grow as an artist so much.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, no matter how much you hate doing it, the end product, you're going to learn something and you're going to learn something that's not tribal. I am not just a metal guitarist. I've taken my metal riffs and I've put it through the lens of Burt Bacharach. And by doing that process, you're going to go, hang on a second. I just understood that a -7 sharp 5 chord, then you're going to go, why did he use that there? Oh, that sounds amazing. So I'm going to put all my gain on through my diesel amp with my 8-string guitar and play that 7 sharp 5 chord over here as it resolves to that. You've just learned something so powerful that no one else in your genre has done because no one else has ventured out. Right. You're putting on your adventurer jacket. You've got your ice picks. You're going out into the wild unknown. Yeah. And in particular, you don't like the cold, but you're going out in the cold. Yeah. This stuff, to me, you get all these people teaching all this like stuff, and it's all great. But when you gum up against these barriers, when you know it deep down, gutturally, it's like, oh, that's challenge. That's your chance to grow massively. And
so you're filtering. You're using this hack. This what did you call it? The power of different hack. We'll call
different by design. Yeah.
Different by design.
Power of different.
So you're filtering your skills where you are today, but you're filtering them through somebody else's fingerprints, their personality,
and you're doing that through your hatred of something else.
Right. Yeah.
Because your hatred is only inbuilt through the tastes that have been developed through your programming.
That's good.
And sometimes it comes from internally. And that's fine. But doesn't mean that you're going to do that for the rest of your life. It's an exercise. It's like doing push-ups. How many people start doing push-ups that love doing them?
Right.
None. No one I know.
Yeah.
But it's that when you very first start, it's hard. Does it build you some firepower? It gives you the strength to be able to listen to any piece of music actively and go, okay, that is amazing. That is amazing. And John, you've worked with me. You know how I think. I take it to a level beyond that. But that's just what I do. But this cannot hurt. Put it that way. In terms of if you want to find. But let me put it this way: if you want to find a unique voice that has value for your audience, that makes you stand out from anyone else, the easiest and fastest hack is to try and learn the music that you hate. Because you might get some flavors from that, which will help you design a brand new identity. By following your own path, you're going to sound like, sorry if I keep putting it through metal bands, because it's just what I know. You're going to sound like the next Periphery, or you're going to sound like the next, whatever. You'll sound just like them because that's who you aspire to be. Right. But if you can also harden your chops and sort of learn some other styles that you don't like, and particularly the ones you don't like, don't gravitate to the ones that you like. That's that dialectic thinking, in play.
So Finn, for you, I mean, you've started companies. You've got some companies that are on the stock market. You've worked with the Van Halen brothers. You you have a company with Ahmet Zappa. All the while you're doing music the whole time. And in full disclosure, you're an artist on Jetpack Label Group. We released a record last December.
Late last year.
Done very well. Tell us, what are you up to now? I mean, your hands are in a lot of different things. What's going on? Give us an update.
So I have a technology with Ahmet Zappa, as you mentioned, which is we're pushing a new frontier in sound. So we believe that songs and music that you listen to go way beyond the auditory and delve into the non-auditory, which is stuff you can't hear. And so we're using the power of recalibrating frequencies in audio mixes where it changes human emotion, it amplifies the human physiology. Basically, make it simple, we're about how can you listen to the music that you normally like by us adding like a filter on top of it, which makes people more relaxed, more engaged. So whether you're a soldier in the battlefield, whether you're going on the tennis court or the football field, we're about how do you just listen to the music you like, and then how do we make that even more amplified so you get better performance out of it. I also have a YouTube show called Raiders of the Lost Art.
Yeah.
That happens weekly. It's blowing up, even though it's a very niche. It's about the intersection of art, creativity, business, entrepreneurship, sound design, innovations in music, new instruments. It's about the stuff I'm talking about. We explained we have an episode called Design Thinking for Musicians on Raiders, which it's all free, and you can go there, and I've got the frameworks and you can lay through it. So that happens weekly, and that's blowing up. Subscriptions are going through the roof, views are going through the roof. And I'm working on a new piece of content which is going to be mixed in Dolby Atmos, which is it's a piece of audio, a sound design audio, which is describing the new planet suite. So it's using the magnetic frequencies of the planets and the orbital data of the planets to create soundscapes, which can be used in all sorts of things, from wellness to apps to blah blah blah. So been in early conversations with people who are related to the calm.com, blah blah blah, about how I might do that. So I've got my hands in a bunch of different things, companies, technology, patents.
Right.
I keep exploring.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, Finn, man, this has been great. I know I've learned a lot, and I think our artists and our trainees will really get a lot out of this. So I want to thank you for jumping on and just pouring into the next generation of artists.
My pleasure, guys. Can I just do a little shameless plug for my YouTube channel, please? Please check out my YouTube channel, Finbar O'Hanlon. YouTube. John can put a link on there.
We'll put a link in all the SEO.
Yeah, my channel isn't just there. I'm really trying to provide value to the next generation of artists and to try and change everyday people's thinking about what music can do and how it can elevate our lives.
Yeah, I love it. Finn, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.